hosted by your friendly neighborhood PhD. Hi, everybody. It's another episode of the TyePod, and today I'm joined by Danielle Connolly, and we're going to talk a little bit about her experience with, I understand you have a muscle weakening disease that it's, as of yet, still not diagnosed, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll get into details on that and everything too, and talk advocacy, and I'm sure we have several commonalities going on too with our experience. So it's great to have you, and looking
Yeah.
forward to talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Definitely. Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. I don't know how you feel about icebreaker questions, but
Let's go for it.
well, the
Anything's
first
good.
one, I have to ask you. I saw on I think it was one of your posts about this high school valedictorian curse, and you were like kind of involved in kind of the medical field or whatever. But like, if you want to
Yeah.
share a little bit about like what that means or what that experience was.
Yeah, absolutely. Because so yeah, I was the valedictorian in my high school, and it wasn't until years later that I read about like this curse. Like, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know, there is like a lot of articles about it, but because like I think it says like A students work for C students and then B students work for the government. I don't know if you've ever heard that,
Interesting. I have
but
not. That's
oh,
interesting.
okay, yeah, because like the curse is kind of that like the valedictorians tend to like work the hardest, like, but they don't like follow their passion because they're
I feel
trying to
that.
like accomplish everything that they're supposed to. And so I kind of followed that definitely, where I was like, I want to like, so my, I don't know if you've heard of like that ikigai. I'm probably mispronouncing it, like that Japanese concept for like purpose of life. It's like a multiple Venn diagram, but
Mhm.
like I also found that after I found all these great things after my
After the
burnout.
fact,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, as
Isn't
one
that funny
does.
how that works?
Yes, absolutely. And then so some people get hand me down, advice, but like even like when I notice people like on that burnout thing, it's like you can't really listen to people like because you're so like laser focused, like you got that tunnel vision, which was totally me.
Yep.
And like so my big thing was like, oh, I want to make a difference in the world. And then so because I was able to do well in school, the medical path just seemed obvious. So I like when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor, but then when I looked at the physical demand, I was like, no. So then I went into pharmacy because it seemed like I may be able to find some more.
Mhm.
But just like I really underestimated how strenuous the medical field is, and it's weird. Like you would think having a rare disease, I would understand how complicated it was, but I still like underestimated it.
There's other factors there for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it took a lot. I had to like do it and then burn out sufficiently to realize like it's okay for me to not do like this path. Like I kind of guilt tripped myself into it, I
Uh,
think, because a lot of people with rare diseases do like, we all like talk about like disability pride and whatnot. And like I
right.
definitely am a fan of that, but there is a lot of pain involved too with having a rare disease. So I kind of felt like, oh well, I'm able to do well in school. Like I should do this to help others. But I was kind of guilt tripping myself. And yeah, so
Kind
so
of
then it
forcing
took
yourself to go there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it took kind of definitely the curse was fulfilled, but now I'm on a better path for me working in like business and marketing and then doing like creative projects on the side, which is really what I was always passionate about, but it just seemed too easy, which is not really true. Like succeeding in creativity is actually not easy at all, but it just
No.
seemed less like, prestigious maybe or what like society
Yeah.
says is
Well, and that's kind of like one of those societal like normal things, right? Like you're like, well, it's not going to look like a typical career path, or like I wasted all this time going one way and then switching. So
right, absolutely. So yeah, I
yeah,
tried to not think too much about that. Like, what is
yeah.
it? Sunk cost fallacy. Like, oh, I put all this time in, and it's like, well, I'm not going to put 40 years in, and
Right,
it's gonna.
right. And
I
I
didn't really
mean,
have a balance at
there's
all. So
probably things from those experiences still that, help you now, even though it might be indirectly or something.
yes,
But yeah.
absolutely, definitely, like communication skills and all that. Where like you
Yeah.
can't get much more than like a crash course in like working in the medical field. So
That's very true. Yeah, no, I definitely relate to that. I was a valedictorian too, and I felt that
okay.
kind of grade, like achievement thing, and that was a big deal, But then going into college and everything, it was just like, eventually it took my gallbladder going septic to pull me out of all
Oh,
of
really?
there, but I'm not sure it was. I don't know if it was worth it or not, but
I know,
but
yeah, like that definitely follows my path where I kind of had to have
yeah,
that intervention. But I wonder if you think what you think of like how much your disability played into that. Because like I do think I had a chip on my shoulder where I was like,
yeah.
oh, people judge me,
Oh,
so I'm gonna
totally.
be more successful than
Well, you've
them.
got
And
to
like,
compensate, you feel like, because the physical side is not there. So yeah,
yeah,
I definitely feel, that you have to almost double your productivity or output on the academic, mental, cerebral side of things for sure.
yeah, to work like just to get half as far because people
Exactly.
are just making a lot of their assumptions and all that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I had a friend that said something about you work twice as hard to get half as much, something like that.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, definitely. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, I have to ask you because that was me going from high school to, I did the biomedical engineering graduate program, all that stuff. And then, it took this long stay in the ICU to like reset things and realize, okay, now I'm gonna kind of reinvent.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. Very similar. Yeah. I wish we didn't relate on something so dreadful, but I'm
Right?
sure that we it shaped us a lot in our character, I'm sure.
Right.
And
No,
a
I
sense of humor probably in other
that
things.
too. That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of
Yeah.
humor, I think, is kind of essential in my perspective, at least
Right.
on that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get a little bit more into kind of your backstory just with your, muscular disease and like what all started with it and like what was the diagnostic, process to, I mean, and then basically it ended up not really pinpointing anything specific, right? So like what is
Yeah.
your overview story of that?
Yeah, so it's funny, like I don't know if this term was ever used for you, but the first thing they noticed was that I was like a floppy baby.
Mm,
Yeah, it's funny that they use that so like commonly in the medical field. You think there would be a term for it, but anyway, so that was like the first thing they kind of noticed. So I did get a muscle biopsy at 8 months old, but it was
mhm,
inconclusive. They were mainly testing for SMA at the time.
mhm,
So it was either that or we don't know, and it goes in like a black box or whatever. And then so like 5 years later, they did another muscle biopsy at a different hospital, and I do live in the Boston area, so like
mhm,
I have gotten great care. So it's because you do hear a lot of stories in the rare community of like medical gaslighting and all that, and like thankfully I can't relate to that too much. Maybe like a couple incidences over the
mhm,
30 years, but not thankfully not as much part of my journey. And then so like between the age of like 5 and like maybe 17, they were like, we think you may have mitochondrial disease just like based on your symptoms and muscle biopsy. But then like when I was like 18, like genetic testing got a little bit better, and they were like, honestly, like you haven't progressed the way we would have thought, like if you did have mitochondrial disease. So we want to do like genetic testing. But at that time, it was only available in a lab. So the lab took me, but because I didn't fit any like real box, like
mhm.
I just got put down to the bottom, which is like, I think one of the funniest things about rare disease, especially with Americans, like I don't know, I won't take over the whole
Yeah,
podcast with this, but Americans like don't understand like how like complicated our healthcare system is. And I'm like, with the rare disease where it's a whole different world, people don't
it
understand.
is.
And like we should invest so much more into it, but I won't go on a soapbox. But
That's another episode.
yeah, absolutely. But like, so I was put on like, and the lab means well, and then they took me,
Uh-huh.
but like they just don't have the funding and resources. They have to kind of focus on what they get grants for. Anyway, fast forward till I'm like 25, like a GeneDx is a company that does
Uh-huh.
exome sequencing. So my insurance would cover that. So then they did a mitochondrial panel and the whole exome sequencing,
Mhm.
and it found that I probably don't have mitochondrial disease, but it was actually more questions than answers because like it because you know how you need two copies to like present.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so
Right.
I had three single copies of different muscle diseases.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like hard to tell whether they're like red herrings or
Hmm.
there's one hypothesis someone has somewhere that I don't even know, like you can't even Google it, like that two different diseases could be like working together
Well, I
like
wondered if something
in a
like that,
single thing.
was going. Yeah.
Yeah, so to be decided. Like so the lab that I've been in for 10 years, they now have gotten the capability to do RNA sequencing.
Hmm.
But again, it all depends on you need to get it sent out in a batch. So now I'm just waiting. They estimated it to be last summer and then
Hmm.
still waiting to get added into a batch.
Hmm.
So who knows? They do like temper expectations being like, we probably won't figure it out
Yeah.
right now. So I just need technology to catch up with me. But thankfully I'm quite stable, so for that I'm grateful. But yeah, I definitely wish that people working on undiagnosed diseases had more funding. But for others more than me, like for people that are like deteriorating and I have no answers, it's very frightening. So but yeah,
Right.
so that's kind of a long story as short as possible.
Right. Right. No, that definitely that whole, diagnostic pathway is exhausting. And even, for me, I thought that I had confirmed that I had Duchenne way back when I was younger, and I came to
Yeah.
find out that was inconclusive. Like,
Oh,
so that
really?
wasn't even proven. This is like 30 years ago. And I'm just
Okay.
like, okay, well, I got to know what's going on. So I did one of the saliva tests, and it did
Yeah.
pick up. It's mostly Duchenne, but it's this weird like intermediate between Becker.
Oh.
And so I'm just like, okay, this is
Oh,
weird.
okay. I've
Um,
never heard of that, but that's
yeah,
kind of what they were maybe thinking with me. So that you're the
yeah,
first person that I've heard of with that type of
yeah.
situation.
It was kind of news to me. Of course, it didn't really matter because there's no real treatment for either one. So it's like, well, okay, that's just information. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like now I have specific, mutations and all of that data there if something came available. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of those like Pandora's box. It's like, do you want to know, like, or is it better like to not know? But I
exactly.
think at the end of the day, knowledge is power. So, like you
Yeah,
said, if a treatment
yeah.
comes out, at least you have that information, like, so you can kind of make your decisions from there.
Yeah, and so like for you, what was the progression like on muscle weakness? Was it like really delayed over time?
Yeah, like so thankfully it was quite minimal. Like
Uh-huh.
I am weaker than I was when I was younger. And then you kind of have to wonder, like, is it just because I'm like getting older or like, or is it the disease? Like, and even the doctors will say that. And then I'm like, you're not allowed to say I'm old. But no, I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm joking. Just because I'm like, because I feel like muscle disease doctors, they like, I don't know if you experienced this. They they talk about your age like so far in advance. I remember when I was like 23, they started talking about when I was 30, and I'm like, whoa, slow down. And now that I'm 30, they talk about like, oh, when you're 40, and it's like, whoa, like like, so I think maybe I always blame that for like why I'm like weird about birthdays, because I'm like I've had to like think of that since like I
That
was
far in advance.
younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it's been quite stable. Like I had like more progression with like stomach issues. Like I did
Mm-hmm.
get a G tube when I was 16. Like so I have had that, but I haven't had to use it as much. And actually, like just
Okay.
like a year ago, I got on a medication that was more like addressing the neurological components of like
Mm-hmm.
my stomach, and it has helped a lot. So yeah, so that was more of like the progression, but then I've got this medication. So
Yeah.
like just having the undiagnosed component, there's so many like unknowns of like, oh, is this even related to this muscle disease, or is this like a
Right.
random
Well,
issue?
I was wondering, like, were there treatments or medications that they thought, even though they didn't know exactly, they maybe tried, to help?
Yeah, like that's the only one that's been like actually helpful. Like
Yeah.
I like for like migraines and stuff, like there's those medications, but they tried coenzyme Q10, like the super doses when I was younger. I don't know if they ever tried that with you, but
No,
I
no.
never had any benefit from that. That was like big
Yeah.
with the mito patients. So but that was like the only thing that they ever tried, but I've never had any other medication for like muscle related anything.
Yeah. Yeah. All they did for me when I was younger was try the prednisone route, which
Okay.
is the common thing for Duchenne for sure, and it was the negatives and the side effects were way worse than the benefit. And so it was
Yeah.
3 years of that, and I decided that's done.
Yeah, I've
So
heard that's a very, tough medication.
So
Yeah.
the G tube thing, is that something that you still have that you do use, or did
So
you
I
have it?
still have it. I haven't
Okay.
used it in quite a while.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of funny, like transferring from like children's to adult care, because like children's,
Mm,
they're always like so conservative, like let's just keep it in. Like, and also
right.
their surgeries are all like tend to be general anesthesia. Like, so like they take all the precautions with me. I'm sure they
Hmm.
do with you for
Hmm.
anesthesia. And then so like, but like in adult care, one, they do a lot more like twilight sedation, which luckily I tolerate quite well. And then they're also like so hands off. They're like, oh yeah, you can decide. And then I'm like, oh, for so many years I was like asking my pediatric doctors, like, oh, can I get it taken out? And then like when the adult care is like, oh, you can decide. Then I'm like, wait, like, should I
Like
get it taken out? Like,
I have that power now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. So it's a discussion.
Yeah.
But we'll just see.
But you ended up getting it removed, I guess. And
Not yet,
okay.
not yet. I still have it. Like, so it's strange. I do get it like changed out every like 4 months, but
Okay.
so it's more of like a discussion and like how like that medication works on me like gaining weight and whatnot. So we'll
Okay.
see. But I didn't want to take it out either until I got a place of like neutrality with it, because I didn't want to get it taken out just for like emotional reasons, because I didn't like it. So it's important for me
Yeah.
to, and the other part of it is I wanted to make sure if I did need it again that I could get it taken, put it back in with like twilight sedation, not general, which I don't want to
Right.
give any medical advice on here, but
Right.
I've
Like,
heard people do that. So it would kind of need that reassurance, and to
yeah.
know like if it heals improperly, like would that be general anesthesia, or could they like close it with
Yeah. And
twilight?
you
So
probably had general anesthesia then for some of your procedures. So
yeah,
like what was it like after that coming back? Were there any adverse effects from that?
thankfully, no. Like, so
Okay.
that was when I was 16 when I first got it. They did general, and then I think they did general with like the muscle biopsies, even though now it's like it's so much less invasive. But
Hmm. Hmm.
but yeah, they just put me on like all precautions. So I think they did different medications than standard, but and then just ICU as a precaution. But thankfully, it was all good.
Hmm.
But they just like to avoid if possible. And then so I've had to do twilight for like they randomly found I have EOE, which is like eosinophilic esophagitis, which is a rare disease, but again,
Uh-huh.
I think it's like an autoimmune. So I'm like, is it just bad luck or is it related? But I've had to get some scopes with that, and it's all twilight, and I do completely fine with it. So
Hmm.
so I'm glad to know that like that's an option for me.
Right, right. Well, that's good that you kind of have more, say so in choosing which thing you want. That's
Right,
definitely a good
absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
adjustment, but it's better, at this stage of my life.
Yeah, yeah. How like as far as like adapting to, the progression at all? Like I know you have used was it one of the scooters or something
Yeah.
occasionally? Like what has your adaptations been as far as like, adaptive tools or anything like that over the years?
Yeah, so I feel like I've like kind of leaned into them more as I got older. Like, so it's kind of just like knowing like when, but it's like it's a little bit complicated because it's like your
Hmm.
whole life kind of like, so like my house now is not accessible. Like, the housing market where I live is so terrible. Like,
Ooh.
I do want to move eventually, but it's tricky. So it's like a scooter to get into my house has to be taken apart. So like obviously I need help with that. So like once I kind of was just like, well, I'll use it like when traveling, it's still like good to have my own like but it's like people don't really think of that. They're like, okay, just get a scooter. But then it's like, well, you need like an accessible house or if you want to
Right.
take it somewhere, you need an accessible car, unless you have
Mhm.
someone to like take it apart. And then So yeah, so I did get one of those, but I'm really glad I did because it's really, really helpful when traveling. Like because before when I didn't travel, I went on a few trips when I was younger, but not too many. And then I was mostly just like pushed in a transport chair. So you just have like less independence and you kind of feel like you always have to say like, oh, can you bring me like, and then where having my own scooter, I can kind of decide on my own and all that, which is great.
Definitely. Well, that's good to have, especially distances when you want to go do anything. But yeah,
Yeah.
the whole, assembly, disassembly thing. Like I remember those days I had one of those, like free-wheeled scooters, and
Okay.
that was kind of how, I had like a lift to put it in the back of my vehicle, and it was a whole giant process. So yeah, it's like
Right. Yeah.
if you don't have assistance for it or the right transport, it's just, a whole other barrier to going out and doing anything.
Right. Yeah. And there's some like good things on the market that are foldable now, but like
Yeah.
they're just like
They're
more
getting better.
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah,
you
there you
just
go. Then it's the money situation and
right. And then I kind of have to balance like, okay, how much am I using it? Like versus like, okay, is this just
yeah.
good enough?
Does the
So
insurance cover the current one you're using, or
so
is it
it's
out of?
partially yes.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't get like any choice in the model. I got like the
Mm,
standard one that the only kind they'll cover like the Pride
yeah.
go or whatever. But yeah, so it would be great if more like foldable things were had
Yeah.
a good price point. But
Anything you've had to try to appeal with on insurance to cover, or have you been?
I haven't just because
Yeah.
I think you would know like I think like you can only request like one of those things like every like 5 years or so. So
Yep.
I'm still like
Hmm.
under that 5 year mark. So when I hit that mark, I'll maybe see what I can
Yeah.
do, because that would be great. But
I just
um
know there's battles that come up with that, and I'm just the few I've had, luckily there haven't been anything really severe or anything like that, but it's this horror thing like I don't want to be dealing with.
oh yeah, you hear horror stories like
Yeah.
even like where they won't cover a cushion if there's
Exactly,
like that.
exactly. And then it's like, well, we'll cover what's needed in the home. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, that doesn't really help that much.
No, no, and I hate that like because that like was needed for like some justification for my scooter, and it's like
Hmm.
they don't care if you like go out of the house or not. Like they and it's just like people, but people in society believe that too. They believe like
That's
oh,
true.
disabled people to stay in the house, and it's like it's just there's so many like levels that have to be broken down. Like that's what I say. Like
Hmm.
if anyone's interested in disability advocacy, I'm like, well, the good thing is there's like so many things to get involved with, and then the bad thing is there's so many things to get involved with because there's so many issues.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so it's just one of those things. It's like there's just so many things to break
Right.
down.
Right. And it's like, I mean, we can't fight all the battles at the same time. So we kind of have to break it up and
I know, because it's like, yeah, it's once you kind of get even more involved, like you said, like you're like, oh, I should like be more involved in this. And it's like, because I even felt bad that I'm not like on my like disability commission in my town, but I'm like, I do want to move because it's like I don't really think this town is ever going to be that good for disabled people. And it's like I know it's
yeah,
not going to get better if no one joins, but it's like you only have so many hours in the day and so much energy.
exactly. I mean, like the health things too sometimes are almost like a full-time job by themselves. And so like it's hard to navigate that and do everything you want to get into with advocacy too. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And it kind of like if you're not careful, you can go down that original path that we had where it's like, oh, I gotta accomplish everything. And it's like it's almost better to just like focus on like one that you're like or a couple like you're really passionate about and like
Right.
involves like a skill set you wanna
Well,
work
because
on or
burnout
whatever.
is a lingering thing too on that side of it, I feel
Yeah.
like, so yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm curious kind of to switch into I know you did some like reviews of accessibility and things like that. What is that something you're still doing? And like, what does that involve right now?
Yeah, so it is. Like I was thankful to do some traveling this summer, and so I do have a backlog of things to edit. So
Mhm.
like I mostly do those like on YouTube. And no, and it's funny because when we talk about different topics, like I'll do my like reviews on YouTube, like a longer form. That's actually like the first thing I wanted to do with content creation, which is like those
Okay.
type of reviews. But then I'm
Uh,
like, you can't expect people to watch you for 30 minutes if they haven't like met you on like a 30-second video. So then
right.
the short form content ended up being a lot more popular than those, but I still do those for fun and they have like a small audience of their own that's growing
Hmm.
and I do like the fact that there is some like usefulness there, so I like when someone like is planning to stay in like the same like cruise cabin I was in because then they like see the whole thing. But then there's part of me that like feels guilty about posting too much about like traveling on my Instagram because I know
Hmm.
like so much of like the disability community is in a bad state now with like not only like the job market but just like benefits being at risk and stuff, so it's
Right.
like trying to balance what feels useful and whatnot as far as like the content I put out. But it is good to like show what's possible like with a disability and chronic illness.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the accessibility review is like I try to just because accessibility means something different to everyone, so I kind of try to do more of like the show versus tell approach, like so people can make the decision on their own, because so much of like what I do is like I'll look at a Google map of like a restaurant before I go into it just to decide, because you can't
Hmm.
trust anyone. Oh yeah, this is accessible. It's like
Not at all.
no, yeah. So that's the approach I try to take, but I also
Hmm.
try to weave in just like thoughts on the food and the atmosphere and all that too, because it's like my ultimate thing is like I wish that like mainstream vloggers or influencers that talk about events and stuff also like made a note about accessibility, like like to have an accessibility review, because we're
Mhm.
so inundated with like people pushing stuff out to us. Like I wish there was like accessibility review was like a phrase that was like mainstream.
Mhm.
Don't know if I'll accomplish that, but little by little, who knows.
Yeah. That whole process, and having the full length, videos for people to still see that if they want to is really great, I think. And you never know what information they're going to pick up in something like that. So that's kind of how I feel with the podcast thing too, is like, well, how many people are going to listen to 2 45 minute to an hour, episodes a week and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, I'll put that out there, but then also try to mix in the clips and blend it together somehow. So yeah, definitely. I relate to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But as far as like, I guess places that you've seen, kind of, do you have for your specific example, like what was like the best and the worst accessibility wise for you?
Okay, so I'll say the worst first so I get the negativity out of the way.
Okay.
So I recently, and I just complained to them and I got my answer, but so I recently went on a trip to California. So I'll try to keep this brief, where I went on like a cruise in the middle. So I stayed at three hotels. I mean,
Hmm.
two hotels and a cruise. All three lodging places had accessibility issues that
Hmm.
were not like in the planning. Everything was prepaid for. So like the last one was supposed to be a roll-in shower. It was a
Hmm.
tub. That one wasn't as bad because they sent up a chair. The cruise was so bad because like my scooter has a standard plug, and like the voltage in the room was like
Oh
five
no.
lower than what it was supposed to be.
Hmm.
So like my friends had to unplug the battery and bring it to like customer service every night.
Ooh.
It was like ridiculous because if I was staying on my own, I can't lift a 40-pound battery. And the room had, it was an accessible room, yet it had a step to go into the bathroom,
Hmm. Of
which
course.
yeah,
That makes total sense.
yeah, and it had a roll-in shower, but like a step, and the room was like also so small. So
Mhm.
that was Carnival. So I don't plan on going Carnival again, even though their prices are good. I've had much better luck with Royal and Disney
Okay.
and Virgin actually too. The Virgin room was huge. The only thing is it didn't have automatic door buttons. Disney and Royal did. However, I on those two I stayed on newer ships.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that they're on all their ships, but that was such a game changer for me because most hotels don't have that.
Right.
So I was able to go in and out of the room on my own. So like
That's
now,
huge.
yeah, now anytime I give a review, I'm like, it won't ever get a perfect score unless it has that door
Well,
opener.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't see almost anywhere getting a perfect accessibility review these days. It's just,
No, no, absolutely not. But yeah, so but I will say like for a cruise ship, like they did really well.
yeah.
Like because people always think like the cruise rooms are like small and all that, but they really designed it well. Like there was, certain things that they could have done better, but overall pretty good. But the worst thing was the first hotel
Uh-huh.
I stayed at in California, prepaid December. I called them the day of saying we're gonna be late, like our flight got delayed. So we get in at 2 a.m. California
Oof.
time,
Yeah.
and they say like, oh, we gave your room away. And then
Whoa.
I said
That's,
like I called saying we're gonna be late and it's prepaid for. Like, what do they care if the room's not there? The person who told me was like, they just told me this at 10:30. Like I just came in. So I wasn't gonna get mad at him because they just shuffled it onto him. They're like, we comped you your stay for tonight and booked you across town. So like I had to take Uber to a hotel across town,
at
like
2 a.m. in the morning
right,
with the
the scooter
scooter.
and all our
Yeah.
luggage. Yeah. And
Oof.
then so like paratransit the next day was all for the original hotel. So like
Hmm.
that all got screwed up. And then of course when I call people to complain, I'm like, oh, have you ever heard of paratransit? They're like, no. So it's like I'm like, I can't even begin to tell you about paratransit. So it's like,
Right.
but it turns out, so it's like they kind of guilt trip me, and it's like it's still I kept saying to them like you got to put this out there every time someone makes a booking, especially for accessible rooms. But so apparently they, because this was in Long Beach, they had
Yeah.
people living there from the fires, and apparently like
Oh,
the
gotcha.
fire inspector told them they couldn't go home. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but like when I booked this room back in December, you knew people were living there, so like there really should have been a notice like just let you know people are living here, like your room may get
Right.
canceled, because like
Right.
I never would have booked an accessible room, like
And it's
so
always so, unheard of that they would actually be preemptive or try to reach out and do something. I mean, it's
yeah.
like it's on you to, fix the whole entire misunderstanding that they caused.
I know. And it's like, how was I supposed to know you're housing like families? Like, like I think they probably should have put that like as a disclaimer when
Yeah.
you book. But that was my worst experience. I don't know if I'll
Oof,
be,
that's brutal.
I hope I don't beat it ever. But
That sounds really painful. Like I've had some 1 and 2 a.m. mornings getting late to a hotel, but nothing that extreme. But
yeah, yeah. And I
yeah.
hope you don't.
No, no, no
But
one
now I'm
else.
gonna make a clip about this though. I'd like to
Yeah.
all disabled people, like when you book a hotel, like ask if anyone's living there,
Yes, that's right.
because if they are, they may cancel your room at the last minute. And
Mhm.
so I am gonna make a clip about it. But
Yeah. Well, that was a bad one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So is the good one Disney then, or like what?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think like cruising, like because I
Yeah.
hadn't gone on a cruise until like two,
I've
3 years
never
ago.
been. I've always been curious.
Oh yeah. So like I had never gone on one because I was afraid of norovirus. So I was like,
Mm,
oh, I'll just go in the summer where it's not
hmm.
as like prevalent. And I will say like Royal and Disney were very clean. Like they had sinks like in all of like the dining areas and it wasn't like a
Nice.
traditional buffet. You had like people serving you. And so I felt safe, like, like as far as like noro and again, I went in the summer, so I didn't go like peak season. And then the room
Yeah.
was great. So like the room was better than most hotels. So they really made great use of the space and it's just so convenient having everything right there, like from the food to the entertainment.
Yeah.
And I
It's like
yeah.
there was intention in the design of it to make it a good process and experience. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like so I've talked to other like disabled people that are like, yeah, like cruising is like has been my favorite. And then
Yeah.
I think it's just so convenient just having everything there. And if you need to go back to your room if you're not feeling good, it's right
Yeah.
there. So yeah, and then you don't really have to worry about transportation like oh, getting an Uber or an accessible van because
Because
you're
it's
just
all like
going to
right
the
there.
ports and stuff and
Yeah.
you get back on the ship.
Did you visit any other countries or like get off and go tour at all on any of
Yeah,
them?
just like Caribbean.
Yeah.
Like the California one, we went to Catalina Island and
Hmm.
like Ensenada, Mexico. Like
Mm.
the ones like some of those we just like went around town. Like Catalina was super nice. We did a golf cart tour, so it wasn't like the most accessible because they didn't have like wheelchair friendly ones. But the
Hmm.
town itself is like I actually found it quite accessible and it's very pretty.
Nice.
So yeah, I highly recommend Catalina. The ferry to get on it was quite like steep the thing,
Hmm.
but the staff were really helpful getting all like the wheelchair users and myself
Mm,
down it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a thrill ride in itself, but there was
Yeah.
people on both sides, so they made it work.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking like if I ever went to another country or out, and visit anywhere, it would have to be by cruise right now because the airline thing, as we all know, is it's not
Oh,
an option. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if you haven't been on a cruise, I'd probably recommend like a smaller one first, before like a transatlantic or a
Mm,
trans-Pacific. I forget what part of the
right.
country you're on.
So I'm Tennessee area, and
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
you could
so
kind of go either way, but probably
pretty
East Coast. But
pretty
yeah,
much, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But because I even am like, I don't know about transatlantic because I'm like, I like kind of being near like the mainland in case of like an
Good point.
emergency.
Good point.
But yeah, like but I am a bit tempted by transatlantic because like some of the nicer ships, they're even like cheaper.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you haven't gone on a cruise, I'd probably recommend like a one closer to shore first, just to try it out because
yeah.
that's what I
Well,
did. I only did like a 3 night for my first one. Then I was
okay, that's
hooked.
not
But
so bad. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm finally, close enough to where Florida is at least somewhat accessible, so I could get there to try one or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And their Port Canaveral is,
Yeah,
there's a lot of ships going in and out. So you got the variety.
nice. Yeah, that was not an option in New Mexico where it was before. So,
Oh, really?
so yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah, but that's good to know. But something you touched on though, I wanted to ask you on the door, the push button doors. You mentioned that there were ones to get in the rooms as well. Like,
Yes.
do you ever see any kind of standard for businesses or like classrooms and schools like to ever implement that kind of thing? Because it's like pulling teeth to get one even to enter the building, much less,
Oh, yeah.
other doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know if you've heard of this startup called like We Hear You.
It sounds familiar, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of faith in them because I saw them at like this event at like the Perkins School for the Blind is near me in Massachusetts, and it was
Okay.
like a startup event for disability tech. And so they have a system where I don't know, there's technical components where it doesn't have to
Mm,
be like wired in. I think it might be like battery or solar. I don't
right.
know, but it's cheaper to install, it's quicker to install, and they are very connected to the disability community. So
So
I'm
they
like,
could probably like go in and whichever door was needed to have
yeah,
that feature, they would just add it on.
yeah, like it can be like in the house, like different
Yeah.
types of doors too. Like so there's not as many like repairs and whatnot. So like I have a lot of faith in them to change the game. So
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like because it's like so much better. Like it's like and like when I like go onto this, like the people who get this most, I think, are like more like luxury travelers because they're like,
Mm,
yes, I would pay extra for that, like because with my coffee and my luggage, like everyone likes
right.
it.
Right.
Like
See, it helps
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
people like these buttons wouldn't be broken if people weren't using them. Because like you
Right.
know what I mean? Like so people aren't using them the right way, but like hitting them too
Yeah.
hard. But
But there's
it's
more emphasis on it that way, though, if it is a luxury for some.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So like that even though like I want to always take the moral approach being like, oh, this is the way to go, like the realistic thing is like a lot of people are driven by like money and return on investment. And so like,
But when
when
the
you
when the like disability community can capitalize on
right,
that, I mean
that's
it's better than nothing, that's for sure.
right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I always think like if a product can be used by the mainstream, it's just gonna get cheaper for us. So
Exactly, exactly.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm hopeful, but it takes people like buying into it.
It takes a lot of effort. It really
Right.
does,
Yeah. Because
and
yeah.
yeah, I had so I was working in a lab and I had a graduate office and everything when I was at the university. And I worked with my advisors. It took like a year and a half, but they got a push button door on both bathrooms and the office, which is a really cool thing, but it took so much effort to get that
Right.
done. And then then afterwards, there was another building that was built with zero push buttons,
Oh,
even on the outside. So it was just like,
oh,
how does this even
the worst thing is
happen?
when it's new construction.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's a constant thing. But no, it would be nice if they could kind of retrofit doorways with that. So
Yeah, no, yeah, it's an interesting company. Yeah, you should definitely check it out.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I did want to kind of go into a little bit of your like the implementation of humor and like how kind of the mental health side of your experience and what you found with that, and, like what works, what doesn't, just generally.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny with like content creation. Like I've seen so many things that are like you have to be willing to like fail publicly, which is true. Like because I saw something that says like you never really see someone from Harvard be like a successful content creator. Like all these
Mm.
big, huge ones with like hundreds of millions of followers. I'm not aiming to get there or anything. I just do it on the
Me
side.
either.
But none of them went to Harvard or Ivy or whatever because someone said like most of those people are afraid to fail out, and I was like that for a long time. I never posted even on a personal page, but then I kind of got to a point in my life, post burnout where I'm just like, I don't care. And so,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just felt like I had a lot of material for like different content that I didn't necessarily see that could be added to the
Hmm.
conversation. So, and like humor was something I always used throughout my life as a coping
Hmm.
mechanism. But when I thought like it may either like help people or educate, then I'm like, yeah, well, let me just try this. I was working in marketing. I'm like, so it can only build on my portfolio or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's kind of taken on a life of its own, and it's been fun and rewarding. And it's just like a nice foundation if I want to do other projects or get more
Yeah.
involved with the community.
Well, I noticed that you put, a big emphasis on like the whole collaboration aspect too, which I thought was really good. But has the response been good by like your followers and everything on that?
Yeah, so like I have done some like collaborations and whatnot, but yeah, it's kind of like for a while like I wasn't like it's kind of hard to like balance like with certain things like in your life going on with keeping on a certain schedule and whatnot. So yeah, so I'm like open to any type of like collaboration. But it's great to see when people resonate. And it's funny too when you get trolls, like that's actually the sign of like, oh, your content's gonna get more views. So I'm like, I was just thinking the other day, I'm like, I haven't had some trolls in a while. So I'm like, I need to make
You're kind of
something
like watching.
controversial. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's when you need to make something that gets some attention the other way. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
because like some of the biggest viral things are that negative side too, and I mean the
Yeah.
people that make those comments kind of fuel the fire
Yeah.
in
It's
our
like
favor anyway.
I know
So
increasing engagement and all that. So I
yeah,
know it's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting world. Like what has your experience been with like the explosion of like all the different platforms that are available now? Like are you like, no, I'm sticking with the tried and true ones I set up, or have you kind of
Yeah. So like
brought
honestly, like so I'm on like TikTok, YouTube,
okay.
Instagram, like and I do just like repurpose across all of them. Like so
Yes,
if someone follows me on all three, they'll be
definitely.
like, I've seen this today.
You
But
might
it's
be
like
seeing some, yeah.
yeah, I don't like so the only difference is like the long form on YouTube. But other than that, I just repurpose because I'm like there may be different people that use TikTok more than Instagram, and
Mhm.
it's like I don't do this full time, so it's this is what I have to bring to the table. And
Yeah.
YouTube, I'll sometimes do more that are related to like my reviews and stuff. But other than
Mhm.
that, like I did download Threads like right away, and then like I never used it because I didn't like get engagement right away. And it's like
Mhm.
I'm always like maybe I'll do that again, but
Threads is
um
a funny one. Like
yes.
I almost experiment with it more than anything else just to see
Okay.
what it does. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like I like right away I didn't because it didn't have like a good algorithm I think in the beginning like to
Right.
connect you with
And
communities,
I
and
still
now
don't
it's
think it does,
oh
but
you don't okay
not from my experience at least. But
yeah because like I've noticed that too, so
mhm.
it's so yeah we'll see. I so like videos is mostly what I do, and it's like sometimes like carousels are trending, sometimes long videos are trending, sometimes short, so you never know. And
Yeah,
then you kind of just see like the ones that you think are going to go off are like none, and then the ones that
it's
like
always that way.
yeah where I'm like, oh, why did I wear that outfit? I thought no one was gonna really like this one, but
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes. You just have to be open to it. Like if
Right.
you're too invested in the numbers, then you're like it's
Oh,
not
that's
worth
gonna
it.
yeah, you're gonna
Yeah,
get so sick of it in a hurry. But
yeah, you kind of
yeah.
have to just have fun with the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one thing I'm curious about, like, do you get tired of hearing your own voice when you're
Yes,
editing video?
yes.
Okay, so
Before you
I'm
even
not alone
started,
then.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because like sometimes I like have my mom like she'll be like I'll hear it like I know she'll like find it, and then I'm like, oh, turn that off. Like she's like, oh now she knows. Just like if she's watching it in the same room, just like read the captions because I can't stand it.
Yep.
Like and like it's funny because like I enjoy like the behind the scenes stuff like the planning
Hmm.
and not like but the part is like I don't have a budget for an actor, so I just have to be an actor. And it was funny like one time someone like was like, "Oh, you act," and I'm like, "I don't act. I just am forced to because
Right.
I'm the only one available
Yep.
to show these situations." But yeah, I definitely get sick of myself, but
Mhm.
it's just a necessary evil, I think.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And I've even gotten to the point where I speed it up with like chipmunk style voice when I'm editing because it's just like I can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no,
yeah,
totally relate. Yeah. And I
yeah,
had one comment say that I had a terrible voice, which is funny. Because I thought I was going to get more comments like that. Because it's funny in my chart, I noticed once that they wrote I have a nasally voice. And then like I was like, why did they write this? Like I couldn't even think of like any medical reason why they'd write it. And then I
yeah.
think I don't know if you noticed this, but sometimes with like the neuromuscular, they just like analyze everything, like they're because they're kind of looking for anything. And then so
Mm.
I asked them like, oh, what does that mean? And they're like, oh, we just noticed it. And then like the fellow said that too. Oh, you noticed that too? Oh yeah, I noticed that. So then now I'm like, oh my God, my voice is officially nasally. So when I
You're
find
like,
out
thanks for making that comment because now I hear it.
I know it's now it's official when it's in the
Yeah.
chart. And then so I was expecting more. That was like in the beginning of my content creation journey. And so I was expecting more comments that said that. And I only got
Mhm.
one. And then I was like, I gave them the trophy emoji because I was like, I was expecting this for so long.
Yeah.
And then they actually ended up liking the comment and deleting it. So they must have kind of
Interesting.
weren't expecting me to react like that.
Yeah, yeah. I have noticed that with mine after I had my tracheostomy that the voice changed slightly. Like it's really close to what it used to be, but there are some subtle things. I'm just like, "Ugh, I don't want to hear
Okay.
that again." But yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's interesting with, it's like it is a necessary evil. You have to go through that kind of thing because, like money wise, it's not like we have a budget for,
Right.
actors
Yeah.
or anything. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Definitely relate there. But I'm curious, like looking forward, and I know we're getting close to our hour time, but is there something you're kind of looking forward to doing in the near future? Or I know you said you're looking at maybe moving, like, is there another state that you're kind of looking at, or what's your,
It's just staying nearby.
yeah.
But yeah, that will be kind of interesting because it all just kind of depends on what pops up and
Mhm.
things like that. So that's more of like could happen sooner or could happen
Mhm.
later. I don't know. Like I'm just kind of open-minded about that. And then so yeah, I like started a new job in the spring, so I'm glad about that. And then like I so now I that summer's over. I'm like I love summer, like but it would be good to have some more time to work on some like creative projects that I kind of put to the side in lieu of like
Right.
enjoying the summer. Because there is like a I don't know, it's like one of those things. It's like, oh, if you say a project out loud and it doesn't happen, but there is a children's book idea that I had like related to
Okay.
disability and accessibility that I have kind of like a blueprint of, but
Mhm.
we'll see how that shakes out. But it's definitely on my to-do list to at least give it a try.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll see. So that in addition to all, like I'm just a very like project focused person. Like I like it, but then
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to like binge watch something for like 12
Well,
hours
and I mean, the
straight,
good thing is like when we're doing this kind of advocacy social media work, it's like, well, you can flex, and
Right. Yes.
be as involved or productive as you want, which is kind
Which
of
is good.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have
Yeah.
to remind yourself that.
And yeah, and I mean, like I know the binge sessions get kind of extensive sometimes for me, so I have to be like, okay, pull it back and actually do something.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things on
Yeah.
streaming, so you
Yeah.
can get sucked in once you get in a series.
Yeah, totally, totally. But no, I sure appreciate the time, Danielle. And for people that want to reach out, is Instagram kind of the place to start for you? I know you have a website as well.
Yeah, my website, I may be downgrading it just because I'm like, I think most people just like find me on like
On
social
YouTube or
media.
Instagram,
Yeah,
or
so
yeah.
it's like all Daniellevates.
Okay.
And then Instagram has an underscore before just because I could never secure just the Daniellevates like I can
It's
on the other
frustrating.
platforms. They claim
Yeah.
there's another one, even though can't find her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where to find me.
Okay, sounds good. I did forget to ask you about where you got Daniellevates from. Like, how I know Elevates is part of that, but how did you come up with that one?
Yeah, so it was funny because like so many like it was funny because originally I'm like, oh, I want to just have like my professional like whatever LinkedIn persona Danielle Connolly
Yes, right.
versus like my like content creation stuff. Even though like right away everyone was still like Danielle Connolly. Like so even though a few people once in a while will think my last name is Vates, they think it's
Yeah,
just Daniellevates. But yeah,
that's
so
hilarious.
yeah,
You have
I
like an
know.
alter ego or something like
I
that. Yeah.
know, I know. I'm like, it doesn't like stick though, and then they'll eventually be like, oh, that's. But
Oh,
anyway, so
yeah,
yeah, so it was kind of more just to have it like you say, like an alter ego,
yeah,
but people still know my real identity, so it's fine. But it's I don't know, it's branding because it's all about
yeah,
elevating ideas about disability, and all that. So yeah, that's kind of how it came out, and
yeah.
it flows once I say it, but in writing it doesn't translate as
I
well.
can
But
see that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but
No,
I'm
but
stuck with it now. So
see, but I'm always looking at that, like what words can you kind of like, smash together to make something funny sounding. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that thing. So yeah,
yeah.
I sure appreciate the time again. Look forward to maybe collabing on something in the future. And yeah, sure appreciate you coming on.
Okay, yeah, definitely open to collabs. And yeah, I really enjoyed the chat and thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, same here.